Hello, my name is Patricia Dunbar, and I am a retired employee of the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency. When I first started at the agency in Twinsburg in 1995, I was assigned as a hazardous waste inspector at the hazardous waste incinerator in East Liverpool, Ohio, then known as WTI or Waste Technologies Industries. What I would like to know about the SOBI plant, or any plant that is proposing to do any kind of disposal or destruction of hazardous materials, is how they could do that without a trial burn. Because with the incinerator in East Liverpool, there was a trial burn test that had to be run. And the way they ran it is they knew what the hazardous materials were that were going to be combusted. They had monitors at the stack that took samples, and they ran different conditions in the incinerator, depending upon the length, how often the incinerator turned, so it would affect the timing, how long the waste was in there, and then of course they fluctuated or varied the temperature. So both of those were done over the course of many, many weeks, many trial burn tests to be able to see what the ideal conditions were so that they had emissions that were within the standards or within the limits that were set by the US EPA. After that test was run, they had to have a startup, or they had to have like a little startup time, because they couldn't go into full production right away because, the agencies were worried that there could be any kind of problem that would happen. And they didn't want any emissions going into the neighborhood because that incinerator was right beside the river and right within a well-established neighborhood. And so they eventually got to the point where they could start burning at full capacity, but then they still had trial burn tests once a year to make sure that the equipment was still operating properly, to make sure that they didn't need any tweaks or anything. So I am just really curious how this facility could have gotten a permit without doing a trial burn test first. I'm also curious to know what they are planning to do with the residues, the materials that are going to be byproducts of the combustion of the tires. Because one thing that's going to be produced is a kind of a tar. And they have to have some idea of what the composition of that is so that they know how they're going to dispose of that. It may have too many hazardous materials to be able to go into a regular landfill. It may have to go into a hazardous waste landfill. I don't think any of those things have been talked about yet. And I just caution anyone, before any kind of a facility such as this is able to operate, they need to know what is coming out of the stack and what the proper operating conditions are.